Let's go down to the farm right now. See who's making progress. That is presented by Citi. And the Mets' second-round draft pick from a season ago, Brandon Sproat, was just promoted to Triple-A Syracuse. He has been named the minor league pitcher of the week after striking out the final 11 batters that he faced on Friday night for Double-A Binghamton. He has pitched to an ERA just over 2 between single and Double-A so far this year. Right now, let's welcome in SNY's Joe DeMayo from the Mets pod. And Joe, Sproat has been quite a revelation for this Mets team. How has he taken this big leap forward so far this season?
It all starts with control and command. And coming out of college at the University of Florida, that was one of the biggest kind of pet peeves with him, and had a lot of people believing he was projecting as a reliever at the next level. But he's able to keep that walk rate. It's just over 3 walks per 9 innings this year, and that's going to work perfectly fine when you're dealing with a guy that can throw up to 102 miles an hour on the fastball. Also has a sweeper, little slider, hard cutter type of pitch, curveball, and the most devastating secondary pitch he has is his changeup. And obviously you're looking at these highlights from striking out 11 batters in a row, which is something I think it's fair to say you don't really see that often.
And that was off the charts. I think one of the big questions about Sproat, is he going to get to the big club this year? What do you think?
If you asked me this a month ago, I would have said, no, we'll see him in 2025. It's been a great year, and we'll just see you then. But he is pushing the envelope, like you said, obviously at the outset of this, promoted to Triple-A Syracuse. If he goes there and performs, I think there's a distinct possibility that sometime in September, the Mets could call his name if there is a need that arises either in the rotation or something David Stearns has a history doing, promoting starting pitching prospects to pitch out of the bullpen late in seasons. He had done that with Brandon Woodruff and Corbin Burns back in his day in Milwaukee. So if there was a need in the bullpen, it would be pretty fun to add 100 miles an hour to that bullpen.
I would think so. I do want to ask you about some of the Mets' other top prospects, beginning with Luisangel Acuna. He has not started a game since last Wednesday, and according to reports, a sore foot kept him out of the lineup. What's the latest with him, and how would you, Joe, evaluate his season?
So he's still day-to-day with that foot. I would expect he gets back in the game sometime this week. But it's been just an up-and-down season for Acuna. He's had some really highs June into July where he started to hit the ball a little harder, start to really hit the ball in the air, because hitting the ball on the ground has obviously been a big issue of his. So he still has room to grow, and someone who's probably not going to hit for a lot of power at the next level, and he's not an elite on-base percentage guy. He's going to need to hit for some average to get himself on base, where, as you see right below me, 31 stolen bases. He's still a plus athlete that can play all 3 up the middle spots and can be, dynamic on the base paths. Just, it's going to be a name of the game of, making better contact and keeping the ball more in the air in the line drive variety versus the ground balls that have kind of plagued them a bit all year.
You mentioned David Stern a short time ago when he spoke last week in the booth with Gary Cohen about, really injuries being the main culprit behind the Mets' top position player prospects not taking the big leap this season. So what have you seen along those lines?
I think both him and Gary Cohen were kind of right in their own ways. If you go to the tippy top of the system, Jet Williams has played 11 games this season, had a wrist surgery, and there's some hope he could get into game action before the season ends, but that's no certainty. Drew Gilbert was out since April 6th with a hamstring injury, and he is 8 games back at Triple-A Syracuse. Ronnie Mauricio has missed the whole season with a torn ACL. And those are 3 of my top 5 or 6 prospects in the system, and they all essentially have had lost seasons. Where Gary Cohen's point maybe stands a little bit is if you go just a touch below those guys like Colin Houck, last year's first-round pick, has not really had a great start to his professional career. So it's a little bit of both, but if you're talking about the true top 100 prospects in the system, 3 of them have essentially had lost seasons.
All makes sense. We thank you, Joe. Joe DeMayo from the Mets pod, a man who knows all about what's going on down in the minor leagues. Good to see you, Joe.